OMMA and MediaPost events, and one of my favorite things about it is the Twitter feed, right? The ability to see the Twitter feed. Save for the fact that the first one, right before I went on, I was second that morning at an insider summit, and the guy who went on before me was like head scientist from Google or like second scientist at Google, and the entire time I'm sitting there getting ready to go up, he's talking. I mean, he's up there giving charts, regression models, whatever, right? And everybody was like, "This is the most brilliant person I've ever seen in my life. This is the smartest guy I've ever seen." So if you guys, and I had to follow that. So if you guys are going to tweet about me, tweet well, be kind. If not, light me up, that'll be fine. So as far as what I'm here to talk about today, you guys, some trends in social media. As far as comScore is concerned, if you're not familiar, we are in the world of data and research. Got a panel of several million people worldwide. We track what everybody does, we measure it, and then we will project out. That's where all these stats do come from. Now, as far as what we're going to cover today, let me move a little closer since this is small. I want to run through those 10 different points. And really, some of these you guys are going to be familiar with, but I want to talk about stuff that happens between the lines. Social networking is the most popular online activity. Shocking, right? But we're definitely going to talk about where that is and where it's going. Social networking behavior both transcends and reflects regional differences. Not everybody is created equal. Social media is not the same in every place that you go. The importance of Facebook cannot be overstated. This is also shocking, but I can tell you guys, when you look at the numbers, it's really fascinating to see how important it has become. My $100 billion announcement I saw this morning. Microblogging, we'll talk a little bit about that. Again, Twitter, talk well. Local social networks, this is another thing to think about. It's not just YouTube, it's not just Facebook, it's not just Twitter. There are emerging things in different areas, and we'll talk a little bit about where those tipping points are. Young people, it's not just young people, right? Social media is certainly reaching out into other groups. Digital natives, the millennials. Anybody in here a digital native born after 1980? Admit it, yes, right, dig it. So we can talk more about that later. I had a white paper that we recently did about advertising to millennials, some interesting findings, but we'll leave that for another time. Online display advertising as it relates to social media. None of it in the end means anything if it drives dollars, or if it doesn't drive dollars. So we'll talk about where that stands now and where that's going, and some little gaps that you guys might not be familiar with. The next disruptors we'll talk about. You never know when something new is going to pop up. Pinterest. That came out of nowhere, right? And then also mobile devices. What's happening with mobile devices as far as social networking is concerned. So, social networking is a global phenomenon. Now, I put this quote up here if anybody's not familiar. Thomas Friedman. He is a famous economist. He wrote The World is Flat. But I just love this, this quick quote from him to be able to think about how fast things move and where we stand. When I wrote The World is Flat in 2004, Facebook didn't exist. Twitter was a sound, the cloud was in the sky. 4G was a parking place, and Skype for most people was just a typo. And all of that changed just in the last 6 years. So it's really, when you think about where we stand today, it's 2012. I am very fascinated to think of where we'll be in 2015, 2018, and so on and so forth. But where do we stand as of today? So if you guys look at these numbers, just to give you a sense of people that are accessing social networks worldwide, you're talking about a full 1.2 billion people. And this is just on PCs, not even including mobile devices and whatnot, tablets, etc. And if you were to look at this even 3 years ago, those numbers were in like a 500 million range. So it's really exponentially going up, and these are the types of things you guys got to be on the lookout for. Almost everybody that is online at one time or another is accessing social networking. So let's go ahead and dig in. How popular is it? You guys can see some of those numbers. That's the rise. If you look at the rise of the total internet, the usage, it's up 88% as far as people are concerned. Social networking is outdistancing that as far as growth, 174%. Right, so big numbers. We're talking about really reaching up. But then what about what are people doing online? How much time are they spending? 1 in 5 minutes spent online is on a social networking site at this time, 20%. Think about anybody in here think that they spend less than 20% of their time online on social networking? This is an internet group, probably you spend a lot. But even my mother will be on, she spends a lot of time on Facebook. It's almost annoying to me, her posting on my Facebook page. But things for you guys to be able to think about, just as far as we get into Facebook later when we hone in on that, it's really interesting to see what type of share they have as far as that, that 20% of time is concerned. Now, as far as regional differences, you guys got to remember, not every type of region uses social networking in the same capacity. 1/3 of the social networkers in the world are in Asia-Pac. That certainly has been the fastest growing group as far as just size in general. But 5 of the top 10 most engaged social networks is in the amount of time that people spend as a percentage, a share of their time spent is in Latin America. So my sister-in-law, she's from Colombia, and I ask her, say, why is that? And of course, her answer to me, she's a stay-at-home mom, she doesn't work in the internet, so we're not talking stats. She's like, well, you've hung out with me and my family, we talk a lot. That's what we do. I mean, that's her answer, but so I don't necessarily have a strong hypothesis why this is. There's definitely a lot of interaction, also a lot of interaction between Latin America and the United States, certainly as a result of families being spread out, it being like free access and whatnot. But again, when you guys think of social networking, whether it be strategy or direction or focus, whatever you're going to be doing, you don't want to just go ahead and just blanket it across the board depending upon where people are based worldwide. And we'll dig into that a little bit further. We talk about some of the individual ones that exist in different regions around the world. Facebook. Anybody heard of Facebook? Right, a couple of people, you guys. So as far as Facebook is concerned, you're talking about the 3rd largest property rank. Now, just so that you know, when we think properties, think that Google Sites is a property. That's like Google and YouTube, Microsoft, Yahoo, stuff of that nature, everything they own. So just to give you guys some context, full 55%. People across the world are accessing Facebook at any given time. 3 and 4 minutes spent on social networking are on Facebook. 75% of every single social networking minute is spent on Facebook worldwide. And that, in fact, makes up 1 in 7 minutes spent online, period. So you're talking about, when you're looking at the long-term focus of internet, right? Everybody talks about growth of people, but I will say this, in more mature markets, it's really about engagement. At one point, you're going to saturate. Everybody has a Facebook page, or everybody has a Twitter account, or everybody's on YouTube. But it becomes about how much time they spend there, what are they doing, the stickiness of those particular sites and their engagement. So those are other things when you think about long-term brand advertising. How long are people spending there in the little walled garden? So just to give you guys some context, there are only 5 major markets at this point where Facebook is not the #1 social network within that space. You can see Poland, China, Russia, et cetera. And just to give you some context, some of the others, you can see some of the other ones, and again, we'll talk about some of the local stuff in a minute. Brazil, Orchid had been the big one in Brazil for some time. That changed as of January. And I think you're going to continue to see, you see what's happening in Poland, South Korea. There are some of these places where the change is going to happen soon enough. At one point, it will be a complete world domination. That doesn't mean it'll be like that forever, right? Because certainly 5 years ago, MySpace, I still get emails from MySpace. Anybody still get emails from MySpace? Nobody? See, right? I'm not the only one. And I don't even know what they're about. I don't even open them. Now, microblogging, Twitter, Tumblr, things like that. This has really emerged as a disruptive force because it's a little bit different, right? It's not necessarily a Facebook page. It's a platform for short-form content updates. So, to keep it within a certain amount of time today, I didn't, pull out all the stats. I have an extended set of this presentation, by the way. There was like 70 slides. So if you guys want a copy of it, feel free to take a card, hit me up. But this I loved, right? If you look at the most tweeted moments of 2011, you can see that's a number of tweets per second that happened during some of these things. Certainly sports stuff, we see that, BET Awards. But the #1 most tweeted moment of the year, last year, across the entire planet was the MTV Video Music Awards. Anybody know what happened at the Video Music Awards? I had to talk to the kids at my office to figure this out. Beyonce announced she was pregnant. That was the #1 most tweeted moment on the entire planet last year. So just remember our priority scale, what's important. Keep that in mind. But I just thought it was funny. I couldn't imagine. I'm like, VMAs? Like, when was that popular? But apparently it's still a big enough deal that it's certainly wrapped into people that are tweeting. Local social networks. So this is where, when you start to look at a social network and where it's based, Facebook, Twitter, Windows Live, LinkedIn, at one point these were, all United States, and that's where everything was happening. But you could see anywhere from 60 to upwards of 91% of all of the users on these US-based social networks are, international. And really the tipping point, when you guys are looking at new social networks and you start to get a sense of when they're going to become a big thing, it tends to be about 45, 50%. Once you have about 50% of their users are coming internationally from where they're not based, that's the tipping point of when you should really be paying attention. A couple in Russia that are quite popular on the right. Now, I had to practice this with the Russian gal that I work with. OMMA Klasniki. Hey. Thank you. See, my man, whoever threw that out. And then Vankochki, Maybe it's close, I'm not sure. Anyway, these are important ones in Russia, sort of like ones that are coming up, and those numbers, that 41%, that 43%, that's really, again, reaching that tipping point, the types of things that you guys want to be on the lookout for. It's not just about young people, right? I remember a few years ago visiting offices. When you go in and you meet with different teams, there always seemed to be a different theme of the people that were working on it, right? Once it was internet, and then, back at the time, internet was edgy, but now it's business professionals, right, across the board. And then you had the search dudes, you had somebody that was display advertising, and then at one point it was just the social media guy who had like blue hair, 12 earrings, and nobody knew what he did, right? That certainly existed in many times. That has changed. It's things to be on the lookout for. So really, males, users over 55, represent the fastest growing segment. So I think of like my dad, him tweeting, which fortunately hasn't happened yet. He finally got to text messaging. But the idea behind that particular group really jumping into social media, LinkedIn drives a lot of that. Actually is, you think of like business focus, things to be able to consider. But then also, when you think about women and men, women have historically been the biggest social media users, far and away. But men are catching up, specifically in the younger groups. So these are other things when you guys think of the demographics of who's using, you really need to get outside of what you think of when I think of the blue-haired 12-earring guy. And if he's in the room, dig it. So, digital natives. So this is another thing when you think about social media as a communication tool. Right, we talk about who's there, engagement, but what are people physically doing, and how is that impacting? Is it cannibalizing other stuff? So we talked about digital natives, but one of the most important factors here is social media and how that is taking away from web-based email. Email used to be the big thing, right? It's not that email has gone away, right? We certainly still all use email, web-based. A lot of it is moving on to mobile. But really, for those younger groups that have been using social media, they tweet back and forth with each other, direct messages, or they blast it out, or Facebook messaging, Facebook me, that classic idea. That's really where, as that group continues to get older, and then people that are under the age of 15 keep moving up into that mix, web-based email is really the one that's taken the biggest hit. So that has direct impact on display advertising, again, engagement, different ways and information that can be gathered through that type of thing. But it's really the digital natives are moving to social media as their primary communication tool. So, number 8, social networking leads and online display. So the business, right? In the end, Facebook's a business, YouTube's a business, LinkedIn's a business. Display advertising drives a lot of that, the actual revenue. 1 in 4 US display ads at this time is on social networking sites. That's a big chunk considering every quarter it's 1 trillion+ impressions that are being delivered. And at this time, about 5% of those are what we call socially enabled. When it says follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, in the actual creative. And if you clicked on it, it would take you to facebook.com/company as opposed to the company's brand page. And that number is shooting through the roof. It's very heavy with CPG companies. A lot of retail organizations are definitely pushing it. But the thing that's really interesting about it is, although 1/4 of all display ads that are being served are on social networks, only 15% of the dollars at this time are actually being spent on social networks. The share is different. Why is that? Lower CPCs. A lot of it also has to do with some of the premier brand advertising. They've been concerned about unsafe environments. I think that's going to change, right? Again, that's continue to move, again, as you have analytics about impact and effectiveness. Again, as you think of like the brand metrics that people are looking for, likelihood of purchase, favorability, those types of things that I'm sure many people in this room have to concern themselves with. So you will see that share percentage grow, but it is interesting to see how much impact or how much reach the social media does have as far as display advertising is concerned. But there's really a lot more dollars to be had. And then again, we could talk about something like Facebook, their IPO, et cetera, and the value of such a thing. But this is really where you get into what next, right? Who could be the next disruptors? Pinterest, I thought, was a very interesting one. Before I talk about Google+, just something. Anybody here not heard of Pinterest? You don't have to raise your hand, you have to tell me. But one thing I found very interesting about Pinterest when we sat down and looked at it was, why? Why is it so popular? Like, what was it tapping into in the cultural zeitgeist that existing social networks were not? And when I sat down and thought about it, my opinion of it was that if you think of all of the existing social networks up to that time, it was all about memories, things that have already happened. You Facebook about something that just happened, about some place that you've just been. Pictures, by definition, are memories, right? This is something that had happened. You tweeted, what you had for breakfast, or, I sat next to somebody famous on a plane yesterday, which is pretty cool. I'll tell you that later. But Pinterest was aspirational, tapping into future memories. It's putting together pictures and groups of things that you want to get to. And that, I thought, is a very simple little fact. This is my potential wedding dresses or my honeymoons or whatever it's going to be, something that I would like to own or something that I would like to experience sometime in the future. And it's something as simple as that could potentially jump in and become a disruptor. So just things to think about when you're talking of new social networks. And just to go back, you guys, Google+, out of the gate, it was the fastest social network to 25 million people. Right, as far as like visitors and then also people that were using it. Now, no question, they certainly were impacted by the network effect. People that use Google, it's new, it's fresh, they're already using Google, why wouldn't they sign up? Probably had some missteps out of the gate, as far as no brand pages, you had to have your real name, et cetera. There could be arguments on both sides of this. But there is a degree of sustainability, and certainly as they've been able to push Google plus your world, everybody I'm sure sees that at one time or another, right? You're forced to see Google Plus pages of either your friends or people that have interests like yours. So there is, it's not, I don't even want to say it's even close to being dead. It certainly is being, there is great success there. But these are things to think about of new stuff and new things that'll come out. And also, you got to give it time, right? Not everything just sort of happens overnight. People were like, well, Google Plus, it hit a certain level, and then it leveled off, and that was it. And that was about, 5 minutes after it launched? So you guys got to give things a sec to mature. If you think about Facebook and some of the others we've talked about. Excuse me. And then you can see just some of the fastest growing ones: Twitter, LinkedIn, Sina, Tumblr, Badoo. These are different places around the world, just some of the numbers. You can see that type of increase as far as unique visitors to their websites and usage. So you never know what's going to be next. If you do, please give me investing advice. I could use it. And the last is also mobile devices. When you guys, everybody has a mobile device, right? We talk smartphones is really the big driver. Okay, if you have a smartphone, you are much more likely to be using the internet than if you had what you would call a feature phone. Anybody remember having to tap in W? Anybody still have one? You don't have to admit it, I promise. It's cool. But I can tell you guys, that's really like what's driving it, and this is, we'll talk about tablets in one sec, but that is, if you think of smartphones and their impact on mobile web usage, whether it be apps or mobile, that's really the key, right? The functionality, the usability of those phones, it lends itself very easily to internet usage. And here in the United States, close to about 47% of all cell phones are smartphones. So in fact, 1 out of every 2 people still has a feature phone, believe it or not. Probably not in this room, but in other rooms around the United States. But over 50% of new telephones that are purchased are smartphones. So that'll continue, that share will continue to grow, and certainly as it becomes cheaper, and there's a variety of different ways we'll get to it. It's pretty much all Apple and Android, by the way, at this stage. We'll see what BlackBerry does. And Microsoft, I actually have a Microsoft phone, by the way. I could show you guys, it's pretty cool. But that's really the driver, so just something to be on the lookout for. Social media is directly connected to the amount of smartphones that exist. And then this piece here talking about connected devices, tablets, smartphones, et cetera. One of the big things that comes up, whether it be online video or social media or whatever it is always about, is it cannibalizing what's going on on PC usage? And in fact, for a lot of different things, it is additive, right? This is incremental gain that you see. So it's not as if you're switching one where we talked before about web-based email to, say, mobile-based email. This is really about, you can see total internet, it's a little bit of an extra usage. I'll just say, by the way, about 10% of all time US internet is spent on the mobile internet at this time. But maps, news, email, social networking, which is really the key of this particular presentation, why you guys are here, are that is additive. It is adding more time. So it's not taking away from one, it's sort of taking up more of your life, I guess. Could be talking to somebody on the bus. I don't know, does anybody talk to anybody else on the bus? I do. I'm weird like that. But the point is, we're witnessing, like a new connected era, right? Mobile devices is really what's going to drive long term, and that's why there's a huge battle, right? You can see with any of the social networks, it's all about, Facebook trying to buy Instagram or anybody. Social Cam, does anybody here use Social Cam? Everybody raise their hand? Like, it keeps popping up on my Facebook page, and I have not tapped into it just yet. But it's a lot of my friends seem to be watching weird videos, but I feel like it might be spam. I don't know. Somebody fill me in if you guys use it, if it's any good, right? Anyway, the point is mobile devices matter, right? And it's going to have a much greater impact as we move through 2012. One other thing I'll just quickly say about mobile, and then I'll have about 3 minutes for questions, is simply that I've been coming up to conferences for a lot of years. I'm sure you guys have. It's been the year of mobile since about 2003. It's a year of mobile. It's a year of mobile. It's a year of mobile, right? I mean, it's brutal. I've definitely been on panels being like, it's the year of mobile. I'm a moron. But I'll tell you guys, 2011 was the true year of mobile. Just keep it in mind, tablets, you're talking about 40 million tablets at the end of 2011. That number, and mostly iPads, by the way, but that number continues to shoot through the roof at this point, and that's just in the United States. So if 2011 was the year of mobile, 2012 is really the year of mobile advertising. So just things to be on the lookout for, and it will specifically impact social media. I won't run through these top 10 again. You guys can read them. You know, we'll be able to get you a copy of this. But again, these are the big things that we see happening as far as social media is concerned, you know, in 2011 into 2012, and we could certainly speculate on 2013. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Eli. Have a question from the audience? Oh, I get to answer. I get to ask mine.
Everything. That's it.
We have one right over here.
Oh, right, and then one over here, Rob.
Okay.
Damn, I don't get to ask my question.
You can ask me later.
Hi, Joshua with Vigio. I just wanted to see how do you think social and mobile and video plays a part in philanthropy and the future of incorporating philanthropy to the bottom line of Fortune 500s?
Yeah, so that's, you know, an important question that's come up often lately. People ask me about cause-based marketing, donations, right? The idea that they want to be, you know, what type of impact these things have. The fact is, as a mobile device, it's very easy for somebody to be able to tap on it, right? So just yes, I could add 25 cents, or I could swipe my phone by something. So I see, or video, social, these types of things, just in general, is absolutely going to have impact as far as what the ideal marketing mix is across that bunch. I can't particularly say at this time. Again, I would be a rich man if I knew, if I had the answer. But I don't see any question that type, because in the end, you know, donations, it's all about advertising, right? You know, it's fundraising, right? It's advertising like anything else. So I think that there's going to be great focus on that. I've talked to people in cause marketing. They're doing a lot of different stuff with mobile devices, social, video, et cetera, because video in particular has much greater emotional connection. It's similar to TV in that end, right? As opposed to looking at something that says donate money, you know, watching, you know, various types of cause videos certainly has great impact.
Yeah, Rob, there's a woman up here. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Maura. I just have a question about mobile and NFC and how you see near-field communication kind of changing mobile, and whether that's going to, you know, disrupt things like QR codes and sticky bits. Sure. And augmented reality.
So we're talking like when I'm walking by something, you know, I'm quickly identified and thrown a coupon for something close by. So I don't think it'll necessarily disrupt those other types of QR codes and whatnot, because there are things that are push technology and pull technology, right? I got to take a picture of a QR code, you know, that is me pulling it in versus something being pushed to me via, you know, location-based or near-field services. So I think at this time there's a lot of opportunity for all of them. The pie will continue to get bigger. So we have not seen one cannibalizing the other or anything pushing something else out of the way. So let's say it's still a wild, wild west at this time. Got 1 minute? You throw it in.
Wait, one question there. Thanks.
Really quickly, I want to ask you to explain that slide about the growth rate of Google versus Facebook, and what are you trying to say with that in terms of the tipping point for success in social?
That was purely about the fastest to 25 million. Okay, so it was out of the gate. It took Facebook X amount of time or Twitter X amount of time. So that's where everybody was like to the right, or at least you're right. That way. So it was really just about how fast they were able to reach what is a milestone in the world of social networking, 25 million users. And that's why I talked about the network effect, which is the fact that people already use Google when they launch something. They are inclined to go ahead and use it further. So that's really all it was about, was how fast something can reach that type of critical mass. So when you talk about disruptors, again, you think of Pinterest, which about 1 year ago had like 30,000 unique visitors or something, and now it's 15, 20 million. I haven't seen. That's just in the United States. So that's really the point that was being made there, is out of nowhere, something could just sort of snap in and be popular if it taps into something that doesn't already exist.
Thanks. I think we have to wrap it up, but thanks, Eli. You know, feel free to ask him more questions afterwards. So thanks.
Right, thank you.